Hey guys, welcome to our movie podcast channel. Today we're going to be talking about Manjummel Boys. And basically, me and Aafreen, we keep watching a lot of movies, and Aafreen was researching on which movies we should be watching. And she came across this particular movie, Manjummel Boys, which had a very high rating of 8.2. It was also the biggest blockbuster of Malayalam cinema. And we didn't know what we were going to watch. We hadn't seen a trailer. We hadn't heard much about the movie, although it was very popular. I remember Aafreen asking me to watch this movie in theater, right? When I was in India, you had heard about this movie. And I wanted to watch the movie in theater and I just kept missing it for some reason. And then eventually we saw it together on Hotstar.
My perception of Manjummel Boys was based on my experience with new directors of South Indian cinema, where they almost tell an autobiographical kind of story when they were young boys and how they met the love of their lives and stuff like that. So when I saw the title Manjummel and Boys, I thought it's a bunch of boys from Manjummel. When I wanted to keep a background here in the Zoom, I saw this poster and it seemed a little scary and dark. And I wish I had seen this poster before I saw the movie because it is so interesting, this poster, and it sets the right narrative for the movie to begin, where there is a bunch of guys on the top of the cliff, and there is this deep cavern inside which there are two people hanging around from a rope or something. This is absolutely the right moment, and there is this deep cliff, and inside that there is a skeleton jaw. So they are in the mouth of death almost, right? So this is
Right.
an absolutely like such a creative poster and the right tone for the poster. I didn't see this poster obviously, so I didn't. But my perception was in the first 20 minutes, it tests your patience. You're like, what the hell is happening? And but yeah, let's go ahead and start your presentation, Karthik.
Sure. Okay, so this is the image that is one of the earlier images. In the beginning of the movie, there is this tug of war happening between two gangs, the group of boys who are eventually going to go on a trip, and some other gang in that particular locality. And while we were watching all of this, we weren't sure what is happening. But I remember the moment when Afreen looked at the tug of wars and she kind of was asking me if you know how to win in a tug of war. And I was like, I'm not sure.
Both the sides are pulling, and at some point of time, one team may decide that let's lose it a little bit, so the other team starts to get the pull easily, but while they are pulling back on their side and they think that they are winning, so their grip on the rope is not as hard as it is when they're just pulling with a force. And at that moment, the other team, which had originally let it loose, they yank the rope on their side because the grip is loose. These guys don't have as much control on pulling the rope, and that's when they win. This was the game changer. This is how they win. But anybody who has played tug of war would know this trick. I mean, any of the teams can use it at any point of time. But obviously, Karthik hasn't played tug of war in his life, so I knew this, and I was like, 20 minutes of tug of war and all this things, or the world building. Again, a movie will always will have to build a world so that later you remember those characters distinctively. If that world building is not there, it kind of tests the audience's patience, but it has to be there. I realize the importance of how it just builds inside your heart, like, all these movies with like so many characters, even The Wire with so many characters, it has to go through that initial period where it has to have every character distinctively uh, show have a presence in your mind, and then later you're like, oh, is that why he set up 20 minutes of narrative to it's a very crucial point in the movie when this particular tactic is used. And then you understand, oh, in the beginning that's why he kind of like had a narrative of 20 minutes setting this up. So yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it was fun. Yeah.
I completely agree with you as far as world building is concerned. One of the challenges we have because of OTT taking over, and being a filmmaker myself, I hear this not just from producers, I hear it from actors. A lot of them, the way they've started thinking is they want the movie to have an inciting incident within the first 5 minutes, an incident that's going to shake up the narrative, and they are not into world building. According to them, in OTT, people are so impatient that every 5 minutes or 10 minutes there needs to be something happening, or else the people will lose patience. And I think Manjumal Boys and many movies which are specifically made for theater are an example that how much a movie works and works better when there is world building happening. when you set up the movie, because then the payoff is even more rewarding, right? When you know the characters very well, when you have gone through their journey, and when you see scenes like this, which in the beginning may not make sense, but when it comes in the end, and there is a relation to this particular scene. In fact, if people are going to be impatient and going to forward the movie in the beginning or not going to pay attention to these scenes, they will miss the payoff because there's a beautiful setup. So I agree with you, Afreen, and I feel that a lot of these movies may be losing out on an audience in OTT. But on the other hand, I think theater audience laps up such movies because in theater you're not that impatient. You're relatively more patient. You are okay for the movie to set itself up, unless it's really, really bad or really boring. So yeah, once again, the first 20 minutes might test your patience, and that's why we are letting our audience know, the OTT audience who obviously will have to catch this movie on OTT now. Please be patient. Please watch the movie. Every single scene is important in the movie. Let the characters connect with you because this is the first 20 minutes when these characters are going to connect with you, and then you will get the reward for it. In fact, my mom, I remember recommending this movie to my mom and dad. And I called them the next day and I spoke to them, and they were like, no, we didn't watch the movie. The first 20 minutes was boring. We didn't understand what's happening. So we just left. I said, please sit through the movie, the first 20 minutes. You will love it. The next day I called back. They were so much in praise of the movie. They were like, wow, this is such a great movie. Thank you for letting us know that we have to wait. So, yes, please be patient in the first 20 minutes. Okay, so
Yeah, I was going
these
to
people, yeah, tell me.
I was just going to say that please mention the incident with your mom and how she
Yeah,
was patient the next day. So, go ahead.
cool. Okay, so this picture that you see, so what happens after the first 20 minutes, we get to know the guys, and then the guys decide that they're going to go for a trip. And they decide to go to a place in Kodaikanal, which is in Tamil Nadu. So these guys are from Kerala. They decide to go to Kodaikanal, and in the beginning, you were just seeing them in the car, having fun, drinking, and just like boys, right? They're just going to have fun. And then they come to this particular cave called the Guna Cave. This is where a movie called Guna, which stars Kamal Hassan, was shot. And I mean, this is just, I believe, outside the cave. So these guys are taking pictures and bonding with each other. And the part of the Guna cave where the movie Guna was shot is not is prohibited basically. So you're not allowed to visit that part, because there have been some untoward incidents that have happened. But these guys, being the rule breakers and being the kind of people who don't care much about what others say, they enter.
The arrogance of
And
youth.
arrogance of youth, although I feel some of them don't look that young. By the way, I wanted to mention the guy on the right in this picture. He's going to be one of the most important guys. So, and the guy who's just standing, just want you guys to know that he's going to be a very important character. And in fact, the first guy, this is also a very important character. The first guy is pulling the rope. The last guy pulling the rope. So very important characters. So it's a kind of setup, they have set it up very well. We are going to talk a lot about these two characters. Okay, yeah. So the arrogance of youth, as Afreen mentioned. So they just go into that cave in spite of being warned. And as an audience, I started to realize, okay, this is where something is going to happen. Okay, let me give you what kind of idea I had about this movie. When I read this is based on a true story, I thought this is going to be some haunted kind of movie, and we are going to see one by one all the characters dying. This is what I thought. It's going to be a movie where everyone is going to die at the end of it. So when they were entering the cave, I was pretty scared for them because I thought, okay, I'm going to see them dying now. And that's when the first inciting incident happens. One of the guy we saw holding the rope in the previous picture, the last guy, right? He falls into the small space. I don't know if we have that picture. Um, yeah, so you see the picture on the top, right hand side. This is a small space. He just slips, and for a second, you don't even realize what happened. They're all going inside, and some of them are scared. They don't know what this cave is about, and it feels spooky at that moment. And then one of them just falls into this small space that there is, and almost no
And
one
you wonder
notices
if
him.
it's like a ghost movie where, is it going to be like
Yeah,
that? Or what is this movie about? Like we had no idea.
yeah, and the way it's shot is also very spooky. We see a lot of bats flying in the air and everything, so you get that feeling that something airy is going to happen. So this guy, falls into this hole, and almost no one notices him except one person, I think. And that person panics and tells everyone else, and the whole group whole group panics, right? And now we are wondering what's going to happen next. Okay, this guy is
And
going
the
to die,
way
and
he falls, it's brutal. Like he doesn't like simply fall and goes to one. It's levels of fall, like staggered fall.
that apparently saved. I mean, okay, sorry, I want. Okay, spoilers ahead because I
But
don't think I can talk about the movie without spoiling it at least a little bit. Um, yeah. So that was the reason apparently that he survived the fall.
but
Apparently,
the viewer
this
who is looking at it, like imagine me. I mean, I know that if I fall directly, I'll probably die, and if it's staggered, it kind
it
of
was 900 feet,
yeah,
by the way, the
exactly.
cave
So, but for a viewer,
hole.
it's like one hit, second hit, third hit. I felt
Yes.
like every bone in his body would have been broken by so many hits, but apparently the staggered and the height becomes like it's not a straight drop, and that kind of saves
Yeah.
its life. But it was still brutal to watch. It was absolutely brutal to watch.
Yeah. But we don't know whether he eventually got saved or not. All we can say is at that moment he's not dead. Okay, so I will talk as a viewer what I was thinking at that point. I thought that okay, one person has died. I'm okay to take the death of one person in comparison to 10 people. I just hope that the remaining people survive. And I was telling them, please just go away from this place. Don't wait for this guy. But these guys are very adamant. No one wants to leave. I was like, there is no way this guy might have survived. So why are you taking a chance? Why are you going to take a risk? And I'm seeing that these guys are not at all ready to leave, and they're trying to shout his name. They are sticking there. It started to rain heavily. I am just getting more and more scared for all the other guys. Some of the guys leave to call for help, and they go to the police station. They are beaten up. They are told that, how dare you guys go inside the cave, and you must have killed him, and you're putting it on, that whole. But
Conspiracy
somehow,
theory, yeah.
yes, but somehow the locals over there put pressure on the police, and
And there is an urban legend going, like when they go to this local vendor, like a wheelbarrow kind of a vendor, and he's like, oh, it's a spooky place. There's an urban legend about it that nobody survives. You should not even go there. And ultimately, he kind of comes to also help them. He doesn't
yeah,
just
he's one of the
go.
major help, in fact. He knows a lot about that cave and he's one of the major help. The guy, the tea seller. Coming back to the main plot, right? So you have these guys who run away to the police, and initially the police beats them up, but then there's some local pressure because of which the police accompanies them. But no one is in the mood of helping them. Everyone has given up. No one believes that this guy can be saved. Apparently, the chief minister's child had fallen through this hole and they could not save the chief minister's child. So just imagine how can a local guy get, not even a local
Yeah,
person, right?
nobody.
Nobody gets saved, right? So they're not even making an attempt, the police people. And that's when I think one of them hears the sound from inside the cave and finds out that this guy's alive. And I think that's when we are also shown the fall, right? The massive fall that has happened. The last, I believe, 1 hour of the film is so engaging. I don't think for a second I must have moved from my place. After this is the guy who falls into the crevice and he takes that big fall, and the police almost is ready to not intervene. And that's when one of the guy hears him, and the police then call the fire department. And the fire department comes with all the things that is required to save him, like a big rope and everything. But no one is ready to go inside this crevice because apparently there is no oxygen after you reach a certain point. So everyone keeps telling the other person, no, I'm not ready to take the chance. And at the end, what happens is none of the people from the fire department is ready to go inside. And
I think
anyways,
one
the
of them goes
police,
a little bit inside, and then he kind of like gets
no,
no. Okay.
I don't remember that. Maybe, but so basically, almost no one is ready to go inside. And we reach a point wherein, we are also extremely nervous about
Yeah.
what is going to happen, right? And between all of this, the guy who I showed in the picture in the beginning, he decides to go ahead and help his friend. There is a backstory behind that as well, right? Do you
Yeah,
remember
there's
the
a
backstory?
backstory that when they were swimming in the river one time, the guy who is in the lying almost half dead in the crevice, he saves this guy while he was kind of drowning. So now he kind of feels obligated that he has to repay that debt of him getting saved to this guy. But more than that, more than I mean, this backstory is shown, but the friendship between all of these guys is like it's like brothers or better than brothers. I don't know. It's not only a friendship of growing up together, but being part of a not so well-to-do part of society. So there is this struggle, which is not only the struggle of growing up, but also the struggle of money. their relationship with their parents and how money dictates that relationship with their parents. The guy who has fallen in the crevice is actually not from a well-to-do family, and he literally cannot afford this trip. But when his friends decide that they are going to pitch in for him, he decides to come along. So imagine he would have been like safe at home,
Yes.
but he's pulled into this by all his other friends. So, I mean, all of this is not shown, but as an audience, you are thinking like, you guys owe it to him to save him. You guys pulled him here. You guys are responsible for him falling down. You better stick up to him. You better stick out for him. Whatever it takes, you guys need to pull him out. You guys got him into this trip. So yeah, that's at the back of
Exactly.
our thing as an audience. Not shown in the movie, but it all kind of like we build up our own moral judgment for everybody, every single one of them. And when he falls, one of the guys just sits out, right? He's not,
Yeah, he panics. He panics,
he's,
and I remember my dad calling me and telling me, I think in between the movie, he called me and told me, I'm super irritated by this guy. I'm getting really angry at this guy. I said, please wait. This movie will take your patience, will test your patience at some points. Because although everyone else is there, but we kind of get irritated with that guy because instead of helping out, he's just
sitting out.
away. He's getting a panic attack, and people are worried about him, you know. But
But he's not
Kuttan,
panicking. He's not visibly panicking. He's calmly just sitting out.
no,
He's not
initially he panics and then he goes there and over a
inside.
period of time he settles down.
Hmm.
But he's the one who panics the most. And Kuttan is the guy who goes inside. So he's the guy who says, okay, I'm going to go inside. I owe it to him. And so the fire department guys tie a rope to him and they start sending him in.
That scene is actually very beautifully set up where Kuttan says that I'm going to go in, and then somebody else says that if not him, then I will, and if not him, then I will. Like each one of the boys say that if not him, then I will. Like none of them back down, none of them are scared. Like
Yeah,
it's a show of how ordinary people become extraordinary, and each one of us have that capability. I mean, tomorrow if Karthik falls down, then I'm sure like whoever is there, me, his mom, dad, everybody will uh you know uh
glad to hear that.
huh?
I'm glad to hear that. I think
Because if I fall down, Karthik will be like, she's too heavy to lift. Sorry.
no, no, obviously I wouldn't have left you, and none of us would have left each other. I think, I mean, obviously we are family, right? And over here we're talking about a group of friends. So usually family and then friends, but over here, I think the friends were as good and as important as family members for each one of them, and that's what we see. And no, none of them give up hope, and we are all sitting on the edge of our seat, even though we are at home, but still on the edge of our seat, and we are watching and hoping that somehow this guy survives. We're not going to let you know if he survives or not, but it's an extremely thrilling movie. It gets you emotional. It brings tears into your eyes when you see the struggle. And yes, the guy who panics and who uh, is sitting somewhere else, he does something which is extremely important. That also connects back to the point of the movie where you
Beginning.
see the tug of war, right? So all of these things happen. We don't know if it's a happy ending or a sad ending, but it is a satisfying ending. Not because it's happy or sad, but because we know that all of our lives are so important to so many other people. The person in this movie, the guy whose name is Subhash in the movie, he might have thought, he has friends, but I don't know if he knew that his life was so precious to so many people around him, his friends, right? All of them, right? And to know that you have so many people ready to give their own life to save your life is something that will make anyone emotional. The lesson of this film is don't give up. Don't give up even if the situation looks extremely bleak. I mean, none of us in the movie, within the movie, except for those nine people, I don't know if the number is
Tension.
nine, okay, but including the guy 10,
Mm.
yeah, so nine people outside, right? None of those nine people, apart from those nine people, none of the people in the movie believe that this guy can be saved. Neither the audience believes that this guy can be saved. And yet, those nine people don't give up till the end. And that's the message in the movie, in my opinion. What's your take on that, Afreen?
My take on that is that ordinary people become extraordinary in circumstances, and there are numerous adjectives that can be associated with our lives, right? Like there are various emotions. There is an emotion like happy, sad, and there is an emotion of sacrifice. When there is a sacrifice from one person to another, or from a group of people for another group of people, uh, that kind of uplifts any movie. because sacrifice is a very conscious choice. It's not an immediate reaction. Sacrifice is a combination of lot of things. It could be for patriotism, it could be for relationships, it could be for a lot of things. But I feel like whenever there is a emotion of sacrifice involved, where you sacrifice yourself for somebody else, that will uplift the movie to a great height, and that's what this movie is about. And then the other thing is, in today's day and age, where we feel that we are all in our, busy in our mobile phones, and here we see a story of 10 friends who are not just there to have a good time. They do have a good time. They drink and they get sloshed and everything, but their soul connection, each of them is like, soulfully connected. We call our partners soulmates, right? We just assume that they are our soulmates, or we think that we have found the soulmate of our lives. But when another person is ready to put their life in danger for another person, probably that's a soul connection that you will never find. You are lucky to find that in a friendship. If you find that in your life
Exactly.
partner, that's kind of a given. Almost it's a taken that, you date and you spend a lot of time and all this. But to find that in a friendship, it's like your life is set. If you found a friend like
Yes.
that, your life is set. And here there are 10 people who have that soul connection for each other. I don't know like how many of us have those kind of friendships, but just to see this kind of friendship on screen, and the turmoil and the fear and everything that you go through, the frustration of the police not helping, all that is kind of like, very well balanced. I mean, the balance is way up. The scale is so high on the side of the soul connection that everything else is small in comparison. Your heart is
Right.
full with love. Your heart is full because you saw something good in this world. This small story made into a film where we can talk about it for hours and what we went through, every emotion possible. It's For me, it's the number one film because a small newspaper clip made into a full story puts Manjummel on the map of India or of the world, probably. So for me, it's number one story. It is a very wholesome experience.
Wish
Uh,
we wish it was sent to the Oscars. It's okay,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
it should have absolutely been sent to the Oscars, but there is, I mean, I don't want to talk about it, but for us, it should have been sent to the Oscar because it is absolutely the right. Yeah, I mean, is an original quote, and the quote is that an Oscar-nominated movie, there are two kinds, and one is which blows your mind, like, oh my God, what did I see? I could not imagine it. What writing, what scenery, what cinematography, what story, those kind of like blows your mind away. So one is that kind of a movie, and the second is which breaks your heart into a million pieces. Like you're so sad and you're so heartbroken. I mean, it could be a happy ending or a sad ending, but the a movie which breaks your heart into a million pieces should be is an Oscar nominated movie. So I think this falls in the category of that, where it breaks your heart into a million pieces, but it also kind of blows your mind because, again, as I said, like a small newspaper clipping made into a very wholesome experience and very wholesome movie. And yeah, it fills all the checklist for an Oscar nominated movie. It is for me the number one movie from India this year.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, for me, I think Maharaja would still stand ahead of it. I think very close call between Manjummel Boys and Maharaja. But yes, I think this one is a more epic movie in the way that it is talking about life, right? It is talking about friendship. It is talking about bigger purposes in life, like, bigger things in life. And a small story talking about such big things, such important things in life, right? Um, the value of one life, right? I also, when I was watching this, I was like, one life out of millions, right? Yesterday we had a hurricane here, and so many lives would have been in danger, and some of them would have even died. We didn't go through the details yet, but every single life is so important, right? And in the bigger scheme of things, when you're watching a movie, in your head, you are okay to give less importance to that one life. But when you see all the other characters fighting so much, you realize, no, even this one life is important, and I don't want to lose even that one life. So I'm glad that we watched this movie.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we connected so much with the movie. It's extremely engaging as well. It's not one of those movies where you're watching it because it's got a good message, right? It's a very engaging, it's a very entertaining in the sense of engagement and thrills, right? And it's shot really well. The whole place, the cave, the crevice and everything, the way it's shown, it's done really well. Looks beautiful. The lighting and everything is immaculate. So technically, also this movie takes all the brownie points. So a perfect movie, I would say, and a must watch. So once you haven't watched it yet, please do watch it. That's the reason we are doing this podcast. Of course, we want people to watch us and listen to us. But more importantly, if you come to this
Want to
podcast,
spread the love of movies. Like, we love movies. We want to spread the love for the right
yeah,
kind of movies. Let's
for the
not
movies that
go.
we loved, right?
Yeah,
Right kind and wrong kind is something that people would decide for
subjective.
themselves. Yeah, but the kind of movies that we loved, and we believe that
We see
sometimes
value.
some movies get lost. Although this movie is a very big hit, but I'm sure that a lot of North Indian audience and Hindi speaking audience wouldn't have watched it. So it's running in all languages. You can watch it in Hindi as well, in case you don't want to watch the subtitles when you're watching a movie. You can watch it in Hindi as well. And by far one of the best movies that we have seen recently.
For me,
So,
number one.
yes, and yeah. So that's it from my end. Anything else you want to add, Afshin, on this?
I mean, after watching this movie, I felt the lack of that friendship in my life where I had that soul connection with somebody. And to sustain it through years and years. These guys have been friends since they were kids, and they sustained it. They didn't grow apart, they didn't go into different directions in life. They cared for each other, and caring is still a very small word. Uh,
Hmm.
they had this soul connection that is hard to find in this day and age. And it's not that we should wait for another person to create that connection with us. We can be the people who can create that connection with somebody else. I think Karthik is one of those people who kind of automatically does it because he's a very people oriented person. So I love that Karthik has that connection with a lot of people. But it left me yearning for such a connection. It left me yearning for a soul connection, a very caring, soulful connection with somebody else. So yeah, maybe I'll take more initiatives, and maybe I'll smile more and be kinder. Yeah, so it's the right kind of message that comes out of the movie, because it's the good outweighs the bad by like a far outweighs the bad. So yeah, it's a awesome movie. Go and watch it.
Please do watch it, and please watch our podcast. And if you like it, please
Subscribe
like
to
it
our
and
channel.
subscribe. Yes, that's it from our end. Thank you again. We'll come very soon with another podcast on movies and travel both, and keep watching. That's it.